It's a victory edition of Spits and Suds. Hello, everyone. I'm Gavin Spittle of 1053 The Fan, joined by my teammate. He always comes through in the clutch. It's EP Ringside, Shap Shots, a great subscription service where you can find Sean Shapiro on his Substack. He also writes for D Magazine. He's been our NHL insider all year long. Are we ready? Frosty's ready. Frosty's ready in the audience.
Yes, we got it.
Here we go.
Ooh, there we go.
Yeah. That looks delicious. What do you got, man?
I got the, let's see, what do I have today? I got the koozie on it too. So I got a Leinenkugel Juicy Peach.
Ooh.
So it's,
man.
Yeah. It's a Saturday night. It's Memorial Day weekend. It's a Saturday night. It's a good beer.
Nice. I'm going with Austin East Ciders again, the original dry cider.
There you go.
Which is always delicious, and trying to support the local Texas.
Yep.
As they're saying, as I said it on the podcast before, how do you like them apples?
Yep.
Everyone, we have a series tied at 1 heading into the third period. Was interesting because, Sean, I was thinking to myself, wow, we could be 2-0 heading out to Western Canada, but not the case. Wanted to get your thoughts on the game. Let's start with the first period because there was seriously some shot disparity, but you and I kind of saw the first period a little bit different.
Yeah, you and I think have a little bit more. This is going to be the divisive view of the first period because obviously the reaction on social media and I think some people and the broadcast. I think the shot counter kind of lied to people tonight. Like it was 16-5. So let's be stats are stats. Edmonton outshot Dallas 16-5 in the first period. That's true. Jake Ottinger had to be good. That's also true. But when it comes to the actual gameplay, I watched with my eyes, and one of the things I do when I'm watching the game is I like to track actual scoring chances on my notebook to kind of see how it lines up to whatever the data is and telling us and everything. And I had scoring chances in the first period, 9-6 in favor of Edmonton. Yes, Edmonton was better. Okay, 3 more scoring chances than Dallas by my view. But it wasn't the 16-5. It wasn't the kind of massive onslaught that I think kind of people kind of looked at it. And from then, I mean, so yes, Edmonton was the better team in the first period. But really, I never came into this game looking and thinking like, oh man, Stars aren't winning this game. Like even though I disagreed with the broadcast where they talked about Edmonton being the better team for 40 minutes tonight. Like Edmonton was maybe the better team for the first 15 minutes of the game, and then I thought from the final 45 minutes on, second, third period, I thought Dallas just dominated this game. Like not dominated, but controlled the game. And it to me, this was a really good 3-1 win where Dallas was the better team. And I guess for some reason, I think kind of the 16-5 wide margin of shots really made people think otherwise based off some of the reaction I saw.
Yeah, I think one of the stats that sticks out for me is takeaways. Dallas 11 and Edmonton 5. And to expand upon that point, I felt as though, Sean, the Stars did a really nice job as far as getting in lanes tonight and intercepting some passes, and especially on some Edmonton potential breakouts. And I thought Tanev and Lindell were terrific tonight, kind of making up for last game. I didn't think necessarily they were bad last game, but I mean, I think, I thought they played really, really well tonight, Heiskanen, Harley. And I mean, it's interesting because every time Draisaitl and McDavid have the puck, Sean, it's just fascinating to watch. I mean, if you take a step back and you kind of take the Stars glasses off, you say to yourself, wow, this is really exciting to watch these guys. But I really feel as though so far in this series, the Stars have limited them kind of limited opportunities. Sure, they scored goals in last game, but, you and I were talking before we started this podcast. This is the first game where Draisaitl is off the scoreboard. So that's a pretty big accomplishment for the Dallas Stars.
Yeah, first game, Draisaitl has without a point. Just the second game of the playoffs, McDavid has without a point. So pretty clear to me, obviously, pretty simple math that it's the first time that neither of those guys have a point. And it's also a good example of one of the reasons I was so confident. And until this series is over, I know I'm going to see people hop on Twitter thinking Robert and I were overconfident in our series preview. If the big guns don't do it for Edmonton, I don't know who is. And tonight, you shut them down. You stopped Draisaitl and McDavid, and you could have won. I mean, if not for one weird shift where, kind of give credit to Cody Ceci and Connor Brown and demerit to Petrovic and Suter, if not for that, this game's a 2-0 game. Like this is it's a really, I thought Dallas did a really good job against the big guns tonight. And that even comes after McDavid. I thought McDavid looked better off the start too. Like first shift of the game, McDavid was flying, looked really good right off the start. And I thought there was a couple other moments where McDavid had kind of speed and legs moving, but just never. He was just really frustrated by Dallas tonight, and it's to me, when you see the Oilers start to panically put that pair together, which I think we did see at points. I think there's times where it's statistically smart. The goal that it led to in Game 1, where they put them together right at the start of the second. But there's also times where I think it shows a little bit of a tell that the Oilers are panicking a bit. And I thought there was times where you saw them, even in a tie game, putting together Draisaitl and McDavid because they couldn't get anything else going when they weren't together. And it's a really good thing that I think the Stars are going to be happy to think about and look at as they board the flight to Alberta tomorrow.
Special teams, it'll be pointed out, and rightfully so, 20 straight kills for Edmonton. But with that Edmonton power play now 0 for 3, 0 for 2 tonight, I think that's a big part of the game. I thought the Stars special teams played well. And the one power play, Sean, despite not scoring, I thought there was much better movement from the Stars. I thought they had a lot of chances. I thought they had Edmonton on their heels. They kept it in the zone for some serious zone time, and I was really happy with that. They had some chances in tight. So for me, it's like not always scoring. It's like show me activity and show me zone time, and I felt as though the Stars power play looked much better tonight.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the concept of stacking shifts. That's something that I kind of, as I look more at this game and try to figure out how hockey works at times, I look at how teams stack shifts and build on top of each other. And for example, the Stars' eventual game-winning goal comes on a stacked shift in my mind, right? You have the Stankoven, Johnston-Benn line with a lot of great pressure and energy, and then the Marchment line comes out. We'll talk more about that in a minute, but they come out right away, and then they score. That's a stacked shift for me. And so for me, the Stars' power play, even when you don't score, you want to be able to start stacking momentum. You want to be able to put spots where you're putting doubt into the other team's mind, where because there's such an energy boost in hockey, right? There's a natural energy boost. When you kill a penalty and the guy comes out of the box, there's a huge energy boost. It's a guy whose legs are rearing and ready to go, and it's a team that feels like they've accomplished something. The more you can do on a power play, where on the ones you don't score, where that guy getting out of the box is like, oh, geez, we're lucky we survived, as opposed to like rearing and ready to go. That, to me, that can kind of, the emotional battle of a playoff series, it can go a long way, I think. So yes, they didn't score, but they took some steps. They got some more movement. And when you do, if eventually sometime you do score on the power play, those are the ones that stack into it, having been able to done that before. That's where you get that confidence. That's where it goes from there. So credit to, I thought they did a good job. And it's even more impressive to me in a game where there were so few penalties in general. Like, it's one thing to, like, it's with, you could have had your one power play and it could have been a complete wash, but I thought you made the most of an opportunity, even if you didn't put the puck in on that power play. It really moved the momentum of the game for me.
You pointed this out last game. It really feels like, and I'm probably too drastic by saying a preseason situation, but Sean, these teams are just like, they're back and forth. There were times when we didn't see a break for a long time, and that's some great hockey. But as far as like physicality, there was some toward the end. Craig Smith with a nice hit around center ice, but at the same time, it's interesting. Like, after the whistle is when you normally see, but it's just been very light So
There's
it's
been,
fascinating.
there hasn't been much animosity. That's just the
No.
thing. Like I said it after game one, and I don't know if it's I don't know if it's Dallas not. I don't know if it's if both teams kind of felt like they like burned the candle on both, like because both teams right had some emotional baggage of animosity earlier in the playoffs. Dallas against Vegas, that was emotional baggage that they had to get out. Dallas against Colorado, there was definitely that. Edmonton and Vancouver, they kind of had a bit of that. Like it's almost like both teams have kind of reached this Western Conference final and been like, man, we're just tired from the after whistle stuff. Can we just play the game? Like,
Yeah,
it's
good point.
like,
yeah,
it's almost like both teams have kind of just been like, I'm emotionally spent at push. I don't need to face wash you right now. Can we just play hockey? And it's like both teams have decided that is the way they're approaching this right now.
And I'm also wondering, because both teams were very complimentary about the offensive prowess of each other prior to this series, Sean. I wonder if in their head they want to stay out of the box. Do not give this other team the opportunity, because both power plays were very effective during the regular season and somewhat during the playoffs, especially Edmonton.
And like the Evander Kane slash at the end of the game, like that's the first kind of bad quote unquote penalty of the series, right? Like the McDavid high stick in overtime the last game, that's just an unlucky setup. There's a couple there hasn't been many bad penalties where as a coach you're like that's undisciplined. Like I think both teams have been really disciplined in the way they've handled their sticks and their structure and everything like that. And I think that adds to it too. My good pal Dmitry Filipovich brought up after game one, because him and I were texting about, he said the only place you've seen kind of weird like animosity is like for whatever reason in game one officials kept throwing guys out of faceoffs, but that was about it. Like it was just a lot of weird little jockeying, but other than that, like it's really the game has been allowed to be the game, and I'm really interested to see how that goes when the series goes to Edmonton and where it kind of goes from there, and what type of conversation we're having once we see the rest of the series progress.
Yeah, we did see some fourth line effectiveness from the Stars tonight, and I like the move of Dellandrea in. I think it was a necessity, but at the same time, I like his energy, and I think that was one thing I wanted the Stars. We talked about it. I wanted them to ramp up like kind of some energy, and I thought Dellandrea certainly provided that at times. On the flip side, Sean, we talked about the depth of the Stars and how they were deeper than Edmonton. But I do have to admit, Fogle, Ryan, even Janmark's playing well, Connor Brown. The third line and fourth line of Edmonton's playing well right now.
I agree with you. They're playing well, but they are playing as well as they can. Mm-hmm. And let me put it that way, right? They're not going to, like, they did, like, Brown scored today, but there's a ceiling, there's a cap on what they can do. Like, those lines aren't going to normally score. Those lines aren't going to create the offense. And so, that to me is the biggest depth part of it, where I expect the Stars' third and fourth line to be able to put pucks in the net from time to time. I have no confidence at all in Edmonton's bottom six of ever putting the puck in the net. That's the Connor Brown goal tonight. I think it was his first playoff goal in like 6 years or something like that. Like that's like it's
he showed it. Yeah, he was happy.
So I credit for the way they played their role, but their role is not effective in canceling out what the Dallas bottom six does. I want to talk about Dellandrea real quick, because there's a couple different notes I have on this I want to go over. So, I am obviously not in Dallas right now. I will be there for Game 5, but it was really interesting to me that I got some information and some reporting on things myself that we took the kind of the media contingency spot was, Roope Hintz is a game time decision. He's going to play tonight, or game time decision. So everyone tweeted, right? Game time decision, Roope Hintz, and everyone believed Pete DeBoer for his word on it. Roope Hintz skated like a healthy scratch. So did Radek Faksa. Ty Dellandrea got off the ice this morning at morning skate at the same time as Wyatt Johnston. I don't know why it took until, and I figured this out myself. I made some calls on things, but, I don't know why I don't know why Delandria's appearance was a surprise. That's kind of the thing that I'm kind of like, that's the kind of thing that's kind of baffling to me on this. Like, I don't know why it wasn't acknowledged that, hey, like people were like, oh, Rope Hintz' game time decision. But I never saw the follow-up note of, by the way, he's also skating with the other healthy scratches. He's doing drills with Nils Lundqvist on the ice. If you're doing drills with Nils Lundqvist, you're not playing. Like, it's the, so I wonder, that's kind of just a, not media commentary, just a note that's been rattling around in my brain on this of just like, I don't know of like how Dellandrea playing became a surprise to the outside world when I don't think it should have been.
Yeah.
The other note on Dellandrea is, I think this was I liked the move because one of the things that Dallas kind of learned from game one is you need to have more speed across the lineup for the McDavid line because Pete DeBoer wants to roll everyone against McDavid in some capacity. And I think Radek Faksa is a very good defensive forward, but I think the speed of McDavid kind of derails his game a bit. And so I thought it was a good move by Pete DeBoer to understand his strengths of his team and do this. Like, I imagine Faksa will be back in at some point. That one of the things about this team is the depth of the forwards and how Pete DeBoer is willing to use all of his pieces. I think it's great. And let's give a ton of credit to Dellandrea here. He hadn't played since round one. You sit as a healthy scratch and watch all of that. It's easy to come in with energy. It's not easy to come in with energy that's focused in the right direction. And I think Dellandrea did a really good job of that tonight, of coming in, playing a game. Like, it didn't look like he had been sitting since the Stars played Vegas. So a ton of credit to Dellandrea on there.
Yeah. A couple things. I wanted to point out Ryan Suter, who, can't say it enough, rightfully so, was taking a pretty good beating last year. We have talked on this podcast that a third line pairing with Ryan Suter is not a bad pairing.
Yeah.
16-12 tonight, Sean. I thought he played really well. I thought he had some really good stops, obviously assisting on the game-winning goal. And like I keep pointing out, I know these guys play with each other all the time, but, a lot of times he's playing with a different defenseman when he goes out on the ice. And, tonight was a kind of a good example. It wasn't Nils Lundqvist-like, but you look at the time on ice for Petrovic, 8 minutes, 44 seconds. And then you look at the rest of the Stars defensemen. Tanev 21-36, Miro 26-18, Suter 16-12, Esa Lindell 26-37, Harley 19-16. So there is a big disparity as far as time on ice when it comes to the rest of the defensemen in Petrovic.
Yeah, and the one thing though, like Petrovic still got a semi-regular Petrovic shift. I think that's the other key to remember here. Like Petrovic played 8:44, but to me that's an 8:44 and he had 15 shifts tonight. To me, that's big, just from a level of the overall wear and tear on the rest of the defense. I do think that adds up in the end. And so, but to get back to your point on Suter, like I think Suter was good tonight. He had there was the one sequence on the Brown goal where I don't like kind of how they got lost and everything like that. But aside from that, I thought he did a pretty good job. He gets the assist on the play, and I think we're seeing a player that we know, and it's well documented, as a little bit saltiness in the past about when he doesn't have the number 1 minutes big role guy. And whether it's by force or his own growth or whatever you want to call it, I think we do have to give credit for he has stepped into this role gracefully this postseason. And that probably wouldn't have been the case in the past. So credit where it's due.
Yeah. So we have two great offenses, but we do have to concentrate on the goaltending as well, Sean. I think both have been really, really good. Stuart Skinner. I mean, you think about it, put this in perspective. In this playoffs, Stuart Skinner with an .890 save percentage. So, and you look at the two games that he's played against Dallas, .939 and .917, only giving up 2 goals in both games. So Stuart Skinner, I thought he made some terrific saves tonight. And on the flip side, I think Jake Ottinger is, playing really, really well. And, I mean, I think Edmonton tried to get to him a little bit, tried to get in front, tried to, there was one snowman opportunity that they took advantage of. But I thought Jake, as always, calm, cool, collective. And I think through 2 games, he's been real good as well.
You want to talk Skinner or Ottinger first?
Let's go Skinner first.
Okay. Skinner, to me, there's something that I've noticed. And going into this series, I labeled him as a weakness and everything like that. And so he's done really well. The interesting thing, Skinner is a goalie who he struggled with idle time. So I looked this up in games coming into tonight. In games that he faced, in games that Skinner has faced 27 shots or more, he's 4-0 with a shutout, and 3 games that he's had a .939 save percentage or higher when he's faced 27 shots or more. And that's kind of the bar where you're using that as, and it's not an accurate reflection of every single game, but that's the trend is in those games you're getting work early as a goalie and you're starting to feel a rhythm. In games where he's faced less than 20, when he's faced 26 shots or less, he's 4-3, and he only has 1 game with a save percentage above 900. Now, part of that is a math equation. When you face less shots and let up more goals, naturally it's easier to get below 900. But there have been games where you watch Skinner play, and he doesn't deal well with the long stretches without action. And so while we talked about the first period tonight, where I don't think it was nearly as lopsided as the shot counter held, it did have long stretches where Skinner was by himself watching Jake Ottinger get into a rhythm on the other end. And so I think Skinner did a really good job staying dialed in when he had to face some of those high danger scoring chances that came against the run of play, and it kind of pushed against him. So I think that's a really important note for Skinner from an Oilers perspective of you have to feel a lot better about your goalie, because even though I didn't like the Jamie Benn goal, I actually really hated. I did not like the Jamie Benn goal on him, but like that's ironically enough, I think both coaches are gonna look at the goals that happened in the first period and think like, I hate that goal against for not on the goaltender. Well, for Edmonton, for the goaltender, like I don't think Jamie Benn's even shooting to score on that play. I think he's trying to shoot low pad to create a rebound to Stankov and coming back. So I think that's where Benn is shooting on that play, and then. The goal for Edmonton is just it's a bad defensive breakdown of just kind of losing everything. But Jake Ottinger, I thought tonight with Ottinger there's a couple different strengths that Ottinger can combine, and we saw it really well tonight. He's very technically sound. He reads plays really well. He's always kind of in front of the play, but he's also could be the battler when needed. And tonight, when Edmonton was crashing the crease quite a bit, they got a lot of bodies there. There was times where Ottinger was in awkward situations. He was semi-prone, getting pushed back and everything. And if you watch him, you watch the head position. That's one of the things I kind of love to watch with goaltenders. When you watch the head position and you watch where the eyes and the tracking is. And Ottinger's eyes, it's very hard to go parts of this game and be able to not draw a line from Ottinger's eyes to the puck. Even on that save where it's like the knob of the stick save in the first period, a little bit of luck required, but at the same time, you look where the bodies are coming and everything, and Ottinger's head is square on the puck on that. And to me, this was a kind of quintessential Jake Ottinger combining his strengths, and when he's playing this well, it's hard to see him getting beat more than once in a game. Yeah. He was really good tonight.
Spring is here, and you can now get almost anything you need for your sunny days delivered with Uber Eats. What do we mean by almost? Well, you can't get a well-groomed lawn delivered, but you can get a chicken parmesan delivered. A cabana? That's a no. But a banana? That's a yes. A nice tan? Sorry, nope. But a box fan? Happily, yes. A day of sunshine? No. A box of fine wines? Yes. Uber Eats can definitely get you that. Get almost anything delivered with Uber Eats. Order now. Alcohol in select markets. Product availability may vary by region. See app for details.
This spring, Raising Cane's invites you to grab life by the chicken fingers. So get out there. Be you. Do you. Embrace whatever makes you, you. All while enjoying Raising Cane's hand-battered cooked-to-order chicken fingers, crispy crinkle-cut fries, buttery Texas toast, and that secret recipe cane sauce that makes everything that much better. So go on, savor the day.
Raising Cane's chicken fingers, one love.
So it's a polarizing position. I can't say it enough. And Jake Ottinger is one of the stars of this team. But when you look at the whole, as far as this 2023-24 playoffs, 2.04 goals against, 922 save percentage. And if you even want to go back further, Sean, in his career, a 2.41 goals against and a 919 playoff save percentage. Those are great numbers.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's one of those things where I agree. I thought he battled really well tonight. Thought there was a lot of action in front of the net. This is a very, very tight series, but a fun series. And I think, I think everyone's getting their money's worth, which I absolutely love. Let's go to everyone's feedback because I know it's going to be a big one. And let's start with our friend Mare Bear. No questions, just a celebratory Frosty from Portland.
Awesome.
Let us take the pin and put it in Portland,
Cheers.
Oregon. Cheers. And I say that because I sent out a tweet and say, let me see your Frosties. Glad I didn't go to game 2 because I'm clearly bad luck for the boys. There's no doubt, Mare Bear, you are. Also, the Lyft driver was named Betsy. Hi, Betsy. Okay. So we have a challenge, Betsy. I have said that I will hire you and drive around and talk hockey. It will cost you more to hire Sean and drive around. But if you want to, he'll be in town. And how great would that be if it's just you and I on a podcast, like doing it from a lift?
It's a live studio, live studio audience.
that would be fascinating. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Mare Bear. And Texas Bourbon Man, Kentucky Brown Juice is my Frosty. Wow, that looks delicious. So sending that in, that's awesome. Let's see. Blackout Dallas. Does Pete DeBoer sit Pavelski down and talk to him about being a scratch? Pavelski's looked rough the past 2 games. There is a note to talk about Sean. He moved from PP1 to PP2 tonight.
Yeah, and they also shuffled the lines in the fourth period, in the third period. The like you went from they put Marchment with Dellandrea and Steele, and that worked out pretty well.
Yep.
I mean, I keep going down. I keep going further and further down the whole thing. Like I know people sometimes ask about the Pavelski thing, and I also thought once Pavelski was with Robertson and Duchesne, I thought things kind of went a little bit smoother for him as well tonight. I thought that worked a little bit better. Who are you replacing him with? That's where I always come to the conversation of are you going to bring Radek Fox in for him? No, Radek Fox and Ty Dellandrea are the replaceable parts. Are you? And Roope Hintz isn't ready. Like if Roope Hintz is ready for Game 3. I guess you could have a little bit more of that conversation, but I don't. And maybe this is the emotional side, me talking about the emotional side, and I don't really care because I think hockey is an emotional game. I think there is a level of. I think there's value in Joe Pavelski in the lineup. I think there's an impact he has on that team. I think there's a calming voice on that team. And whether you believe me that it's quantifiable or not, that's fine. I am not at the spot where I'm willing to take out the puzzle piece that helped rebuild the entire culture of this franchise right now. That is kind of my thought process. And he's also like, he's struggling. He has not been the same player. I get that. He's also this is kind of, there is an impact on others when it comes to how they play for him too. So it is it's a fascinating debate. It's a fascinating conversation. I get it. He played 14:03 tonight. Also, if you want to give credit to something, Pavelski was 11 for 18 on faceoffs too, right?
Yeah.
And that's another spot where Pete DeBoer is a big believer that faceoffs are a huge indicator of how the game goes. If you want an idea of kind of how things look, I don't know.
I still hold out hope, Sean. I think he's going to come up big. I don't know why. I just have that feeling that, and hasn't been happening, but I don't know. I just hold out hope. I really feel as though he'll come up with a big goal.
Yeah, and I the Pavelski question. I think all questions are great. So I want to be clear on that. I think all questions are great, but the Pavelski question is one that's interesting because I think we spend so much time overly thinking about this when I don't think him being in it. The key is Pavelski to me is not hurting the Stars in the wrong areas. I think there's times where he could be better creating in the offensive zone, but at this point he is not struggling defensively. He's not a liability when the other team has the puck. And as long as that is the case, I'm willing to still bet on the potential of him doing something for you offensively.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. Let's see. Dylan Moreland says more for Sean. Well, all right, then I shall just turn my microphone off. What X's and O's adjustments to the power play do the Stars need to make to counter the aggressive Edmonton PK? Commentators want them to go low, but it certainly looks like there are not many lanes for it. I will say one of the things, and maybe it's a confidence thing, Sean, but they are extremely aggressive going after the puck on the kill.
Well, it's part of for the Oilers kill. It's part of why they're so successful. They have a lot of speed on there. Every one of the nuances of the Oilers penalty kill, it's a very simple one, is any bobbled puck, that's the green light to go after it. That's part of the DNA of the Oilers. So that is part of it. The thing I would personally like to see, and I think we started to see a little bit more of it tonight, but I would like to see them in the zone. I would like to see them get Robertson moving a little bit more, just kind of both with and without the puck. I'd like to see Robertson kind of become a little bit more of a rover. And I think there's also times where, from a zone entry standpoint, I'd like to see the Stars, not every single time, but I'd like to see a couple more of the chip and chase on the power play. Just because, and I want to be clear. People always think dump and chase is a bad thing. That is not the case. Dump and chase is not always a bad thing. Right now, you have the Oilers are gapping up well. They're doing a good job of messing with the entries. I would like you to just kind of dump it in. Let Wyatt Johnston go after it. Let some of your other guys go after it to try to open up the other thing. I think mixing in a little bit of chip and chase on the entry for the power play could lead to better entries overall that look clean.
Yeah, I agree. Will McKay says finished checks in the third period. Hadn't seen that all series. Yeah, I think they did a real nice job in the third period, neutralizing some Edmonton opportunities. And I thought they had better opportunities. As Sean pointed out, there was a big shot disparity, although we think it was less than everyone else thought. But in the second and the third, the Stars did outshoot Edmonton. Let's see. Zach Bradford, Skinner has been looking solid. Are the Oilers playing better defensively, or has he just been doing great? No, I think actually after the coaching change, I think they're much better defensively. So I think they're tighter.
I think
I love Ekblad.
No, to answer, Ekholm. Ekholm.
Sorry, my bad. He's playing against the New York Rangers right now.
But I think the Oilers' defensive structure was actually pretty good throughout the entire postseason. I think just Skinner was just struggling with it. We talked about it earlier, where I was talking about kind of idle time he didn't deal well with, and so I think it's more so. I give the goalie more credit here. I think the Oilers' defensive structure, their defense, has been good throughout the postseason. They just sometimes weren't getting the saves earlier. So credit to the goalie here.
Yeah. And I think you have to look at the bench, and Paul Coffey going down to the bench. I think that has made a big defensive difference for Edmonton as well.
Yeah.
Okay. He's got 4 Stanley Cups and in the Hall of Fame. That's not bad. Let's see. Chris Stabkoven. If Hintz is not going to play, how come they don't try Bork? I think Sean kind of touched on that. Surely he could provide an offensive spark. Not that I'm complaining about a win, because I'm not, just truly curious. I don't think you put someone or just throw them in. And I think the difference is Bork has 1 game NHL experience, whereas Petrovic has played a number of years in the NHL and was playing a lot of minutes in the AHL playoffs. So I think, I think there's a difference, is my opinion.
Well, there's a big difference because the coaching staff didn't trust the player that was replaced by Petrovic. The coaching staff trusts 12, 13, 14 forwards before Bork. Not that they don't, but like they trust all of these players. And so for me, the Bork question always comes into play here of what role and where are you going to put him? And I think he has a bright future with this team. I do also believe in the kind of the internal team building concept where are you going to take out... I'm not going to take out a Joe Pavelski for a Maverick Bork right now. I've talked a little bit about kind of the building blocks of what this team's identity is. It's also the spot where if I want Bork to play, I want him to play in a top six role. I don't want him in a spot where he has to be asked to go with I don't think he fits with a Steele into Fox, or sorry, a Steele into Dellandrea or anything like that. So,
yeah.
Yeah. Like to be clear, Maverick Bork's gonna be a really good player for a really long time with the Stars. Like I think there's a difference. It's just the nature of I don't want what we talked all about Vegas, right, Gavin? We talked about how Vegas was this machine that needed to get humming, right? And they didn't get the time to connect because Dallas took them out in 7 games. I'm not of the belief that just throwing Bork in right now is going to be an instant connection and a fit. It could be, I guess, fine, it could be, but I'm personally not sold on it as being this instant fix. To me, he's an injury addition to. Yes, you have a top 6 thing that you're looking at something like that.
I think there's the process of over tinkering too.
Yes.
In that just like, well, let's just put him in here and him in here. And it's like, they're rolling right now. Now, the series is tied at 1-1, but they beat 2 Stanley Cup champions in a row. Now they're tied in the Western Conference Finals. They go on the road. They're really good on the road. It'll be a rocking barn in Edmonton. But at the same time, I don't think now is the time to make changes. If you want to make little changes like Dellandrea, obviously for Foxa, who couldn't go tonight, that's a little bit different. But I just don't feel, Joe Pavelski can be a guy in the room that just calms things down. And, Sean, I was watching an old post game tonight, earlier today, should I say, and they were interviewing Corey Perry, and people could say whatever they want about Corey Perry. And they interviewed Calvin Pickard and Corey Perry. Those are 2 room guys. Pickard's nickname is the Governor because he's friends with so many people. And Corey Perry, to me, and I'm old school NHL, Sean, and maybe it's overrated, but a guy like adding like a Patrick Maroon, maybe it's late in the game now for him, but at the same time, the guys that just go to cups year after year, to me, that's currency in the room. And Corey Perry, while he's not playing right now, can add something off the ice and during practices and talk to the boys. So I like that vet presence, and I like that as far as Joe Pavelski.
Yeah, and like I keep going back to this statement. Pavelski is a player that helped redefine the culture of the Dallas Stars.
Really did.
And I'm not a believer in taking him out of that spot and disheveling it for when you don't have it's not like he's blocking some surefire goal scorer from being in the lineup. And that's not what's happening right now. And I keep going down that path. I go to the fact where I look at his in the zone, his routes are still good. His defensive game is still there. He's still winning faceoffs. If he's doing that, he still has more potential value to me than a Radek Foxa does. He's a different type of player than Dellandrea, but I thought he brings more to me than that. So I I am not trying to overly defend Joe Pavelski as someone might accuse me of. I am not. I don't think it's the right move.
I don't either.
Is what I'm saying. So.
I don't either. Ryan McDermott, Miro's a stud. Wyatt seems to be killing it, but Robo needs to speed it up and just play. I actually think Jason Robertson's been pretty good in these playoffs. So, I mean, I personally don't see that, Ryan. Court says, gotta drive 250 miles back home tonight. She was at the game, so here's my frosty cheers, and it's a bottle of Coca-Cola. I do have to make a clarification. When I say Frosties, and if people want to show me a glass of water or an iced tea or a Coca-Cola, I'm game. This is not an alcohol thing. It's just I love popping Frosties. So if opening a can of Coke is your style, I am 100% all about that, because usually that's my thing too. Tyler King. Block shots are normally considered the territory of worst teams. Vegas was king of it last year, and Dallas is making a point this year. Have broadcasters and fans not valued it enough?
What? Sorry, you cut out there for a second for me.
It's just basically talking about block shots. Is it not valued enough as far as people talking about it? And if I go to the block shots on the evening. Let's see, 22 for Dallas, 9 for Edmonton.
I mean, we heard the Vegas Golden Knights block more shots than any team in the league. So, you talk about it being recognized as something that something that was recognized widely, that really happened last year with Vegas. So I think block shots are a big part of the game, and Dallas has done a better job of it. They've gotten better at it, I believe. I think as a team, they've gotten better at it. So yeah, I don't think it's something that's been under noticed or whatever. I think it's been properly noticed, if that makes sense.
We can always look back at points in the game and say, boy, that was a mistake, and because that's playoff hockey. But I do find the timing of Chris Knobloch's pull of the goaltender, which Esa Lindell kind of had a free shot. I found that interesting because, to me, I wait, get the big guns on the ice, kind of take the zone with possession, and then I pull it.
I'm an early pull advocate.
You are an early pull guy.
I'm an early pull advocate because I think I think in the long run you give yourself a better opportunity. I don't think the timing was wrong. There was clearly a communication error on the Oilers bench. Whether it was Knobloch and Skinner not making everyone else where he was going, or Skinner going early, I don't know what it was, but none of the Oilers on the ice seemed to know their net was empty, right? Exactly. And so Lindell almost looked like he almost looked guilty looking around before he shot that puck. It's like, oh, I can, and so when he went and shot that puck, you watch the replay of it, there's a couple Oilers on the ice who, they're like, oh, why is he just taking a soft dump in on the goalie? Oh, there's no goalie. So, that to me is that not knowing full details, that's a demerit to the coaching staff for me of, you have to make sure your guys on the ice know what's happening right there.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Wanted to point out, you mentioned Dimitri earlier on in the broadcast. He's a great hockey follow at DIMFILIPOVIC. And he tweeted out, Miro Heiskanen has played 201 minutes, 45 seconds over the past 7 games without being on the ice for a single goal against.
Yeah, it's Miro has been so good this postseason, and I think it's another. I don't know how many times we can say, oh, he's getting his proper credit and everything like that, and he was really good tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. MB Tendy says Otter was huge yet again. I can't help but start making a case for Ben being a Conn Smythe discussion. What a response by Ben these playoffs after the Stone incident last year. People calling for his C to be stripped, heart and soul of this franchise. I think he's played really, really well. I love his line mates with him. I think they pair well together. There's good chemistry. I will tell you, MB, we have a long way to go. And I think there are some other candidates for Conn Smythe discussions. But
I also always dislike the so Conn Smythe discussions to me are always kind of awkward and weird and everything because you don't have you have to win the cup to win the Conn Smythe, right? Today's voter, and I have been a Conn Smythe voter before. Today's voter really doesn't vote for someone from a losing team, so you have to win the cup to win the Conn Smythe. So sometimes it's putting a lot of assumption on there when you start trying to make these Conn Smythe power rankings. The other issue that I have with kind of Conn Smythe voting is we're at the spot where we're at the halfway point still. That's it. Like I know, it's like you're at 9 wins right now for both these teams. Dallas and Edmonton are both at 9 wins. You have to win 16. Both of them still have to win 7 more games for this to happen. You have 4 teams. Actually, the other series is 1-1-2 right now. So you have 4 teams that all have 9 wins. All of them are racing to get to 7 more victories. A lot of hockey is still to be played, and so that's it. To me, when you start making MVP cases, you have to remember what's happened so far, but I also don't think you want to get caught too much in what happened in round 1 and 2 without, like, it's an interesting space to be. Like, for me, the Stars' MVP so far of this postseason right now, 4 games ago, it was Wyatt Johnston.
Mm-hmm.
Where they are right now, it's probably a mix of Miro Heiskanen and Jake Ottinger for me. That's kind of it's okay to evolve.
Yeah. How Wei says, nice to see Essa get the empty netter. He played a hell of a game today. Real shutdown. Yeah. I mean, am I overanalyzing Sean by saying that Chris Tanev has really electrified Essa's game?
I mean, it's helped a lot. It's put him with the right partner. I think that's a big thing. So
yeah. It's a real good pairing. Let's see. Let's move down the list. Gosh, so many of you guys are providing feedback. That's absolutely amazing. Let's see. Prater, are the Oilers doing something better than past series that is causing our lack of execution through the neutral zone or even our forecheck? The first 2 periods were rough, had some quality chances. Let's see. To be honest, that makes me feel a little bit better. And Sean, you did kind of hit on, the second half of the game definitely belonged to the Stars, I thought.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, they had, so to give you an idea, so I was talking about my buddy Dimitri earlier. Him and I both kind of track shots and everything, and we kind of compare notes to make sure we're both not going crazy when we're doing this. But so he had scoring chances at 8-7 for Edmonton at the end of the first period. And at the end of the game, he had them 21-16 for Dallas. So that is if I'm doing quick math, which I'm not great at, that's a 14-8 edge in scoring chances over the final 40 minutes for Dallas. I'm going to be happy with that any day of the week.
Yeah.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Kroger worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
So good, so good, so good. Get ready, because Clear the Rack is on at your Nordstrom Rack store. Now through Monday, Memorial Day, find incredible deals on Wear Now styles. On sale for even less at Nordstrom Rack. Take an extra 25% off red tag clearance throughout the store from brands like Vince, Marc Jacobs, Kohan, and more. All sales final. The best stuff goes fast. So shop this sale at Nordstrom Rack today. Please see NordstromRack.com or ask a store associate for details.
This episode is brought to you by Azo. Ever felt off balance down there? Introducing Azo Vaginal Health Products. Azo Complete Feminine Balance helps restore the balance of good bacteria. And if you want protection from yeast and urinary tract issues, try Azo Dual Protection. Save 20% with the promo code PODCAST at azoproducts.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Let's see. Steven says, kind of a stolen game, inexcusable first half of the game, but Ottawa was fantastic. I suppose it's a good sign they can win on what was initially looking like the worst playoff performance yet. Need to finally execute from puck drop in game 3. I'm just going to say this, listen, Steven, that's your perception, and I admire that, and I do think they played better as the game moved along. But I do feel as though, Sean, we're watching sometimes a different game in that I don't know. I'll just say it like this. We're in the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah.
Edmonton is on a streak right now, and they're one of the best teams in the NHL since January. They are, I hate to use this comparison because they went on to win the Stanley Cup, but the St. Louis Blues were in disarray and came back, made a coaching change and just flourished. And I think you can say the same thing about Edmonton. And they struggled out of the gates, and everyone was all over them, and they've just made an amazing comeback, and they're playing really good hockey. So I don't know. I take a step back and I just say, this is a tough series, and I think people expect the Stars to kind of almost dominate every game.
Yeah, there's a difference between expecting like a 4-0 victory and expecting the better team to win a close game. And I think those are two different things that kind of get lost here, right? Like, I don't think anyone expected Dallas to, I picked Dallas to win in 5 in this series, and that could still happen. I don't think it's going to happen now because it's really hard to win 4 games in a row against one team. But it's really hard to, the key to being a really good team is you find ways to win the 2-1, the 3-2. And Dallas does that. And I also think they talked about, hey, it's a bad start to the game and everything like that. And was it a bad start? In a way, but it wasn't nearly as bad as... We talked about it quite a bit already right off the top. It wasn't nearly as bad of a start as the shot count and everything like that. And so I'm not trying to... I love the listeners on this, and I love where we're going, and it's okay. I think it's important that people can disagree on things when it comes to sports, because sports aren't important. They're supposed to be fun, and we're supposed to be able to have these debates. Yeah. But I disagree that Dallas played one of their worst first periods or whatever, or anything like that. Was it one of their best? Far from it. But it wasn't nearly as bad as I kind of saw that reaction to it.
Right. Kashik Kanan says, question for Sean. What adjustments did the Stars make to get their forecheck going in the game? I know it got better as the game went along, but I don't have the hockey mind to know what really changed about their approach. Thanks, guys. Love the pod.
I think their timing got better. I do think their timing got better as the game went along. I mean, one of the things that we saw in the third period when they shuffled the lines is they got some of the guys who were a little bit more equivalent on speed and everything like that. Was that kind of helped, and I also think they just kind of weathered the storm a little bit. I think there's times in a hockey game where you have to respond, and I think they did. I know that's not a great tactical response, but the tactical response for me, that's just more of an emotional one. But I didn't see too much of a change from the mental approach. I didn't see too much of a change from the actual tactical approach. It still seems similar to me throughout the game. But I think you just kind of started executing better as the game went along and on the forecheck there. So I wish I had a better answer for you, but that's kind of what I saw. I saw basically just better execution with the same routes in my mind.
Supporter of the DFW Wyatts, Ken Pitchlock, says, should the Stars just decline the trip back to Dallas for Game 5 in case they win Games 3 and 4 in Alberta? No, let's build something special at home.
No, plus. I have a flight to Dallas on Thursday, Gavin. I don't want them to. I don't want them to not play the game Friday. I would prefer them.
Are you staying at my pad?
I don't think I'm staying at your pad, but we will definitely. We should find a way. We should brainstorm whether it's intermission pregame or something like that. We should after this pod. We should in our text messages. We should brainstorm a way to do something for the listeners in person at some point.
That would be awesome. Christopher DeHardy, so glad the Stars even the series out, and even happier Wyatt's on the score sheet. Got to sleep fast. The Indy 500 awaits. Yeah, I mean, you got the Indy 500 followed by the Coca-Cola 600. I believe you have, doesn't the Florida and New York play tomorrow as well?
They got the 3:00 game tomorrow, I think, yeah.
Yeah, they got the 3:00 game. You have the Dallas Mavericks in action tomorrow night. So big Memorial Day Sunday of sports here in the DFW. Tyler Mayer, Jason Robertson seems to be back to not producing in the playoffs, or at least no trouble when not playing Vegas. How deserving is he of all the criticism? I think he's playing well off the puck, but it's frustrating to not see the scoring.
I don't think the finishing is there. That's the spot right now where it's
agreed.
Like I think there's also, he is a player that kind of needs to get things going on the power play, and having lost Rope Hintz hasn't been the greatest scenario. So like Jason Robertson last scored in, it was Game 5 against Vegas. That's the last time he scored. Now he's got, in that stretch, so in his last 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 8. He's got 8 assists in his last 8 games coming into tonight. So he's getting points. He's been a point per game guy. He's not scoring. The shot totals to me have been interesting because he's gotten, I have to look to see what he had tonight. Robertson tonight had, where is it here? He had 1 shot tonight. He's had, 1 shot tonight. He had 2 in Game 1, 3 in Game 6, 0 in Game 5 against Colorado. Like, I think there's a little bit more of, there is something to be said about him maybe pulling the trigger a little bit more, because there have been times where I think he's passed up, not bad shots. I don't want him just like throwing muffins at the net for a shot, but I do think there's been times where there's been a quality chance opportunity that he hasn't taken. So
yeah, absolutely. Fellow podcaster Starcastic Remarks says, not happy with the way they won, but it doesn't matter at the end of the day. They ask how many, 7 away from the precious 16. Yeah, absolutely. Agree. Fuzzy Wuzzy Boom Boom. So if Rogers Arena is our second home, since the bubble, is it good or bad thing that we're playing there? I will say it's going to be a rocking barn. Just like any away game, if you kind of withstand the first push and then push back. But the Stars just have this calmness on the road. And I mean, me personally, I'm happy with one of 2, Sean. I mean, granted, love to win both of them, but come back 2-2, I'm okay.
Yeah, I look at this as, when it comes to the Stars on the road, we've seen what they can do on the road. They could come back up 3-1. It wouldn't surprise me at all. I watch how this team plays. I would be more surprised if this series comes back with Dallas with Dallas trailing. That's kind of just like, I kind of have with what Dallas has done this season on the road. I have a hard time seeing them lose back-to-back games on the road. The other thing is, like, so Dallas is now, and they're 5-1 after loss, right? And the only time they've lost after a loss was Game 2 of the first round against Vegas, when they lost Game 1. And then they went to Vegas and they won both of them. And there's and so they responded well. So I think kind of the overly worrying about another building or a road game or whatever, it goes back to, we've said this before on this podcast a couple times. When you are that good, you try to find problems as a fan base. I don't think the team does, but I think the fan base tries to find the flaws because you don't want to be blindsided by something. And you don't want to be lied to. You don't want the game to lie to you. And I think that's a big part of where the people start kind of looking for like these worries that, not that they shouldn't exist. Like Edmonton's going to go home. The building's going to be loud. But they also, Dallas feels confident in any building they go into, except game 1 at home. So that's it.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. Thackman, Aaron Thacker says, great win. I'm hoping for a quicker start in Edmonton on Monday. Can you explain when a person is allowed to grab a puck with their hand? Still confused on that rule. So they can grab the puck, but they immediately have to put it down. They cannot cover up the puck specifically in the defensive zone, right, Sean?
Yeah,
and
you can't.
Hand passes can only happen in the defensive zone.
You can't close your hand on the puck, and the only hand pass that is allowed is a hand pass in the defensive zone.
Yeah,
that remains in the defensive zone. You can't make a hand pass that leads to a rush. That like a hand pass where if you make the hand pass in the defensive zone and say it turns into a stretch pass where a guy catches it and goes on a breakaway, that's not allowed. Basically, a hand pass is only allowed in the defensive zone. It's a very weird rule, admittedly, because it's like I don't know. Like we should either it's a rule that should be changed because you shouldn't allow hand passes at all. Like I think that's one of the weird hockey rules where like. Why do we give? It's just like the icing on when you're on a penalty kill, right? So you break one rule, and you take a penalty, but now you get to break the other rule and ice the puck. Like it's kind of like in hockey we have these random rules that are put in place to help the defense prevent offense, and there's other. So the hand pass rule is weird. So
yeah, it's definitely. Very interesting. I specifically watch it in 2 areas, Thackman. In the crease when there's a scrum going on, and we saw it several times tonight where there are 4 and 5 players down. Specifically, the defending team cannot cover up the puck. And now I also watch it, Sean, in the face-off circle, where they've really tightened up the rules as far as how you can use your hand in on the draw. So those are the 2 places, Thackman, that I specifically watch it. Let's see. Crow Wi-Fi, Lindell and Tanev are underpaid. He also says, my son and I got to go to the game. Sagan, Ben, and Stankoven are very noticeable, as well as the defense for both teams. This is the second intermission right now. It seems like this is going on 7 games. Ron from Tyler, Texas. Thank you so much for listening in, Tyler. I will say this. We haven't talked about it tonight, but it is fun watching Tyler Sagan right now. I love his veteran presence with this team, but man, I'm really enjoying, and I'm enjoying it, Sean, because of what he went through as far as rehab, coming off those injuries, to have the success like he's having in this playoffs.
Yeah, it's. I think I said this to someone the other day about him, where to me, we're actually seeing the true Tyler Sagan renaissance. A lot of people talked about Tyler Sagan when Ken Hitchcock was here, and they're like, "Oh, he became this full center," and I never really liked that narrative from the Ken Hitchcock season in Dallas because I always felt like it was people trying to shoehorn Tyler Sagan into Mike Modano, where it's like, oh, like Ken Hitchcock got Mike Modano to play better defense and everything like that, and I never really felt that was what happened, where like Tyler Sagan became this better all-around player because of Ken Hitchcock. It was Tyler Sagan in a contract year, playing really well in a contract year, and then he got paid big bucks. And this year, and like you go back 18 months, like let's go back 18 months ago to last season as well. Tyler Sagan is a guy who reached the NHL and found success because of so many of his natural gifts. He was a burner. He had the big shot. He had this. And the game and injuries took some of that away from him. And now we see how he has found ways to keep some of that skill within his game, but also do it by being smart on the forecheck, by getting hard to the net, and doing all these things that I think the actual Tyler Seguin transition to this all-around player has been within the last 18 months. I don't think it ever actually happened when that whole Ken Hitchcock thing happened. So that's just my view on that one. So,
and I want to end on a positive note tonight. We started this podcast to grow this great game of hockey in DFW, and I'm so proud of you guys as teammates, the kind of numbers that we're putting up on Spits and Suds, and all of you are truly motivating us to do more episodes. Well, it was announced that the International Ice Hockey Federation has revealed that the 2025 IIHF Men's World Under-18 Championship next spring will be at Frisco, Plano, and also the Dallas area. And that is some serious, great hockey, future NHL stars coming to DFW, and I am super excited for that, Sean.
Yeah, so I'll have some more on this later this week. So I did some digging on it today to kind of get a little more information. So it's funny, the IIHF kind of jumped the gun a little bit because it is going to happen, but it's one of those where like the ink is not dry on the contract yet.
Got it.
So the USA Hockey already has Worlds, right? So like the contract is already set between the IIHF and USA Hockey for U18 Worlds, but the contract, from my understanding, is not like the ink is not officially dry of like Frisco of Frisco as the official locked in place. It will happen, and I will write about that later this week when the people who are involved in it are allowed to talk about it. So I will write about that later this week. But yes, so it is going to happen. Essentially, Frisco stepped up in 2021 when USA Hockey was looking for a host during the COVID times, and Frisco stepped up, and it was the IHF, USA Hockey had a great experience. And so I've heard some rumblings that obviously games will be in Frisco at the Comerica Center. I've also heard that there's been a discussion about potentially doing some games in Allen as well, with the Allen Americans play with their 5,000 seat arena as well. So I've heard just kind of one of the things about the last time it was in Frisco / North Texas, they did some games at Plano. I don't think they're going to do games at Plano this time because they want full audiences, right?
Yeah.
When they did it in 2021, it was very COVID time-esque. It was social distancing, everything. And so you could do games at Plano because you're only allowed to have a limited capacity anyway. I think they want to maximize this one more, and it's going to be a fun event. And obviously, the Stars are thrilled about being able to handle that scouting experience from their own backyard.
Yes, and sorry for the few of you that we did not get to tonight. We're over an hour, and Sean needs to go to bed, as do I. But we will be back with another episode soon. And thank you. And that's an awesome feeling that we can't get to all of your questions because you guys keep asking. And yeah, I said on 105.3 The Fan today, I kind of made a mistake, Sean, because we have listeners now in, and you heard this. I was like, I'll go wherever there are Spits and Suds listeners. Well, now we're in Canada, Italy, Australia, Switzerland. So I'm going to go broke, but this is going to be fun.
Yep.
And my journey across the world talking hockey. But first, let's start with the lift driver, and then I'll expand my horizons. Sean, you're an absolute beast. Everyone, you need to subscribe to his Substack. You're going to see stories on the IIHF. The guy's digging during the game. You're going to get some great Stars analytics. You're going to get some background information from Sean that you're not going to get anywhere else. So that Substack is at Shap Shots. He's at Sean Shapiro. Father's Day right around the corner. Still time to order that book that Sean wrote along with Stephen Reserve called We Win Here. So for Sean Shapiro, I'm Gavin Spittle. We will always plug Sean because he deserves it. He deserves the love. And we will talk to you with another episode of Spits and Suds, hopefully cracking another Frosty after another Stars win. But this was a big one tonight, tying the series at 1. For Sean Shapiro, I'm Gavin Spittle. Thank you so much for listening and supporting Spits and Suds. Have a great weekend, everybody.